My name is Daniel, and I'm just a casual racer. And today I'm going to touch on essentially the end of the rFactor 2 journey. And I know for some of you, you've heard about rFactor 2, but you've never bought in just because there's a lot of mixed feedback on the title over the last few years. And there's a lot of you that actually have quite a large investment in the game, whether it's in time or actually financially. And I want to touch a little bit on that in terms of the financial cost and how that's kind of a big reason why rFactor 2's journey is coming to an end. And also just kind of highlighting the fact that Le Mans Ultimate is essentially rFactor 3. I know a lot of people held out for an rFactor 3, although, yes, it's an officially licensed game, and yes, it's more nuanced and focused. In a lot of ways, that was what rFactor 3 was always going to be, and it's just branded and titled as Le Mans Ultimate. And so the big reason why I want to do this video is because multiple licenses are now expiring. I expect more licenses to expire over the 2025. We had Silverstone expire back in 2022, back when motorsport games had taken things over and things were starting to fall apart a little bit. Now we have Le Mans, the Circuit de la Sarthe, and the Ferrari GTE and GT3 cars all losing their licenses and no longer being available for purchase. Obviously, if you own those pieces of content, you get to keep those and enjoy those. But in terms of the attraction to come and play rFactor 2, and these licenses, these pieces of content were not cheap. You could spend more, easily more, buying the GT cars, buying the official tracks like Le Mans, Sebring. To get all that within rFactor 2 costs more than the $37.99 it costs to buy Le Mans Ultimate brand new title. And then of course you can get way more of that depending on what other content you got as well. And Le Mans Ultimate includes hypercars, has an LMP2 car, it's got GTE cars, and now it's gonna have GT3 cars, as DLC. The season pass is $50, which is cheap in my opinion. It's actually more than the base game, which I think is quite high in my opinion. But wait for a sale, that type of thing. And also, I would say, get content. The DLC packs aren't necessarily, for example, going to be for everyone's taste. So far, the previous two packs have just added hypercars and then Imola in one, and then the Circuit of the Americas in the other. Well, pack number 3, which I'm going to have a video coming out on the release date on the 10th on this, it's great. I'll give you a little preview. It has Interlagos, and it's got GT3 cars in it, and it is going to be an amazing pack. It's going to be $17.99, a little bit more than the $12.99 for each of the first packs, but it's the first one I would say straight up is worth buying. If you bought that pack for $17.99 and you buy Le Mans Ultimate for $37.99, you're going to be spending less than what it costs to get the good content in rFactor 2. And what do I mean by that? And this is a second reason why rFactor 2 struggles and why Le Mans Ultimate is going to take over. And that is, there's official ISI content back when rFactor 2 was made by ISI. And there's a whole crazy ownership journey from ISI to Studio 397 to then Motorsports Games. And in that journey, we've had different content produced under each ownership group, each studio. And that content has improved in value, but there's even Riza came in and produced official third-party content for the title. There's the modding side of things through Steam, Workshop. So you have this vast variety of content, even supposedly what used to be official content for the ISI, or even some of the earlier Studio 397 stuff, is not to the same quality as the latest stuff. And so you just have this huge mix, and AI doesn't always work well on some of the older ISI stuff, or it doesn't work well on a lot of the mod tracks, and generally it just doesn't work as well as Le Mans Ultimate. And so visually, it's not, most of the tracks are much worse than what you get with Le Mans Ultimate, but everything is an improvement. Just ultimately at the end of the day, Le Mans Ultimate is cheaper. Le Mans Ultimate has better AI. Le Mans Ultimate looks better. Le Mans Ultimate has the same, maybe slightly improved force feedback, but definitely that same industry-leading force feedback. You have the physics, which is also as good as anything else out there. And so it's just one of those things when you can get an entire bundled package in the cars that most people want to drive anyways, and the content that was already what people wanted. If you were going to drive other content in rFactor 2, it wasn't going to be the same quality level as the GT stuff, as the tracks that are pretty much all included in Le Mans Ultimate. And so at the end of the day, these licenses ending is because there's no point. That the numbers, if you look at the Steam user numbers, are just dying for rFactor 2. It's the end of the road. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Yes, if you love rFactor 2, yes, if maybe you enjoy some of the obscure content, I sure this could be a sad day for you because you were hoping that some of this stuff would get into the next rFactor 3. But for the majority of people, this is going to cover all their bases in a very tight, nice package that at some point, I'm sure, if Motorsport Games survives financially, which I hope they do, they will be able to bring to console, and just overall, it's a very nice package. You know, you compare it to Assetto Corsa Competizione, and you're looking at a package that had GT3, GT4, GT2 cars, you know, it's got a good selection of tracks, but it doesn't have the, you know, Sebring, it doesn't have Le Mans, major tracks that are, you know, bedrocks of endurance racing. It doesn't have hypercars, LMP2 cars, which are some of the more popular cars in racing. And actually, because GT racing is so popular, people want to drive the GT3 cars, the GTE cars. And then of course there'll be people who want to be at faster cars, who want to drive the hypercars as well. When you look at a game like Assetto Corsa Competizione in the online racing, everyone's in the GT3s. Nobody wants to drive GT4s. Yes, they're easier to drive, but they're not that. They're just essentially, to a lot of people, GT4 cars are just slow GT3 cars, and they're just not that intriguing to drive for a lot of people. With Le Mans Ultimate, you're going to get that multi-class racing, which is a lot more fun and a lot more exciting, and that's something that we really didn't see happening online in rFactor 2, and as I mentioned, Assetto Corsa Competizione. I mean, Le Mans Ultimate is in a position here where they can develop a bedrock for Studio 397, for Motorsport Games. As long as they can survive financially, they have something here. And like I said, the latest DLC pack with the new GT-LM cars and Interlagos is incredible. It's one of those, it's a recommendation from me. And so the future is with Le Mans Ultimate, and unfortunately rFactor 2 is going to have to end. You've seen on screen the transition between started off in rFactor 2 and just visually transitioning into Le Mans Ultimate. You can just see the difference, the detail, the comparison between these two titles. And yes, this is the end of a great racing title, a great simulator. One that had a complicated history, that didn't always run right, that had bugs, and has this weird amalgamation of content and qualities all mixed together. Things are getting simplified, and for some, that's going to be a disappointment. But I believe for the future, it's going to be the only real option that Motorsport Games can make at this point to survive, and I think it's a pretty solid and enjoyable title. I'll be honest, if I'm not developing content for Assetto Corsa or testing something like that, the title that I am most likely to pick up personally is Le Mans Ultimate nowadays. The driving experience is so good, the force feedback is so good, and it's just enjoyable to jump in and drive cars. I'm really excited to see how this goes. One caveat I will say that I'm a little worried about is some of the online trying to have a membership paying. It makes me feel a little bit like the PlayStation Plus membership you have to pay for if you're in Gran Turismo 7 to be able to play online. It's very similar to that, or a little bit like iRacing where you have to pay to play online, and that to me I think could definitely go the wrong direction. So they need to tread carefully, because although the king is on a path here, one of the best sims for physics and force feedback, that doesn't mean anything if you tick people off with certain costs, ongoing costs they have to pay. Nobody can replicate iRacing. iRacing's its own thing. It's its own ecosystem. It's on its own way. That's not a smart move to try to be the next iRacing or iRacing Junior. You're just not going to be as good as iRacing if you're almost as expensive or as annoyingly in terms of payments. You're just setting yourself up for failure. They need to tread very carefully there if they want to do some big paid major events or an elite series. Sure, I think there could be some potential there, but they need to make sure that they also provide a lot of support for free, great online racing for people to enjoy. So I hope they keep that in mind. For those of you that enjoy rFactor 2 and really don't want to see it go, well, the licenses, Circuit de la Sarthe, and the Ferrari cars will be pulled at the end of this year. So you have like a few more weeks, 3 more weeks to make sure you purchase those and add them to your library so that you can enjoy those long term. If rFactor 2 is your sim and you really don't want to move away from that, or at least you're not ready to move away from that now, then I just want to point that out to you guys. Overall, though, I think the future is bright, or as bright as it could be with Le Mans Ultimate in terms of rFactor 3. This is the way most sims are going anyways. The tons of content just open with a mixed level of quality was not a great experience for anyone. We saw that kind of with the Project Cars series a bit, where the content even within those games could vary in terms of quality of physics and just even visually. And then, you know, with rFactor 2, it was just taken to a whole nother level in terms of that variation in content quality. And so focusing in, we saw that Assetto Corsa went from such a broad to Assetto Corsa Competizione that they focused in. We've seen that with other racing games as well, and I think Le Mans Ultimate will be all the better for it, focusing on what they have done well, offering it in a tighter, slightly more affordable package, and paving the way for an awesome future. If you're really into GT racing, if you're really into hypercars and modern endurance racing, Le Mans Ultimate's in a position to really set themselves up for the future and build a fan base. So it's exciting to see. We will miss rFactor 2. It's a great sim, annoying sim at times, but still a great sim. And the time has come for Le Mans Ultimate, and I think if you are an rFactor 2 fan, you enjoy that type of driving, you're going to want to support Le Mans Ultimate, because that's where it's going to, if you want to enjoy that type of physics, if you want to enjoy that type of force feedback, then the future isn't in some rFactor 3 platform that's going to come out. The future is in Le Mans Ultimate, and you should support the game, even if maybe you don't love everything about the decisions they're making. That is the future of that engine, that physics platform. And I think it's worth supporting and hoping that it will have a future. I think their CEO that recently came back on board, I think he's got them on the right track over there at Motorsports Games, and I'm optimistic that, yeah, things are going to be tough over there, but I think Le Mans Ultimate will be the game, the title to pull them through this tough time. So hopefully this video has kind of given you some insight into some things. If you are a big rFactor 2 fan, make sure you don't miss out on the content that's going to be expiring their licenses at the end of the year. But most of all, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week.